So basically, there are 10 type of questions that are seen in the TOEFL reading. Okay. And they are, the 3 or 4 reading passages are there, and each is about 700 words long, and 10 questions per passage, and you have 54 to 72 minutes. But in the paper based, it is just 52 minutes. Okay. And 54 minutes, what I've been told, 54 minutes. Okay. So you can see these eight, this is the, first is factual information. I'll be telling what each means as I'll come to that. You have 2 to 5 per set. Okay. Questions for such questions. Then there is a negative factual information. You have 0 to 2 questions per set. Then inference questions, 1 to 2 per set. Rhetoric purpose questions, I'll be teaching all that, don't worry, 1 to 2 per set per passage. Vocabulary is 1 to 2 per set, and reference questions 0 to 2. Sentence simplification 0 to 1, and insert text 1 question. So, this is much better. Sometimes in the, other exams that are there, one type of questions are too many, like, you have those multiple choice, and there are too many of those, or there are too many of the paragraph headings, and the students find that difficult. So let's see how you find it. Then there is reading to learn. Reading to learn is 1 per set. Either it will be a prose summary or fill in the table. That also I'll be teaching. Only 1 question from these is there. Okay, 1 per set, reading to learn. And 2 types of questions are there. Either you get a prose summary or you get a fill in the table. Okay, if you get a prose summary, it will have 2 points. If you get this, it will have 3 points. That means, marking is accordingly. There are 30 questions total, and there are 30 marks of the reading. So factual information. What is this factual information? In this, the answer is straight away, clearly, explicitly stated in the passage. Okay. And you just have to find the answer. It is basically based on fact or detail or definition or any other info. You don't have to think much about it. It will be clearly given. Okay. So let's go and do this question. Should I increase the font, or is that okay? This is the passage, and this is the question from that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Go ahead, read the passage, and then do this question. Okay. So, do you want me to read it out loud, or you'll read it? Okay. So I'll go ahead and read it. Sculptures must, for example, be stable, which requires an understanding of the properties of mass, weight distribution, and stress. Paintings must have rigid stretchers so that the canvas will be taut, and the paint must not deteriorate, crack, or discolor. These are problems that must be overcome by the artist because they tend to intrude upon his or her conception of the work. For example, in the early Italian Renaissance, bronze statues of horses with a raised foreleg usually had a cannonball under that hoof. This was done because the cannonball was needed to support the weight of the leg. In other words, the demands of the laws of physics, not the sculptor's aesthetic intentions, place the ball there. That this device was a necessary structural compromise is clear from the fact that the cannonball quickly disappeared when sculptors learned how to strengthen the internal structure of a statue with iron braces, iron being much stronger than bronze. According to paragraph 2, this is paragraph 2, sculptures in the Italian Renaissance stopped using cannonballs in bronze statues because statues of horses because. तो अभी आपने पढ़ा है कि वो पहले cannonball रखते थे नीचे. अब क्वेश्चन है कि उन्होंने cannonball क्यों रखना स्टॉप कर दिया. Options है, they began using a material that made the statues way less. They found a way to strengthen the statues internally. The aesthetic taste of the public had changed over time. The garden was added too much weight to the statues. Okay, now tell me. Yes. Anybody else? सबको B पता चल गया? B answer है.
Yes.
So you found this question easy, factual information. Okay. So this is good. Okay, I'm happy. Just let me see. There is some print. टाइपो एरर है, गार्डन वॉज, मुझे वो थोड़ा अजीब लग रहा है. लेट मी सी. क्या है ऑप्शन? द कैनन बॉल्स एडेड. कैनन बॉल्स एडेड, गार्डन वॉज नहीं, कैनन बॉल्स एडेड. एनीवे ये आंसर नहीं है, बट कैनन बॉल्स एडेड टू मच वेट टू द स्टैचू. ऑल राइट. सो ये क्वेश्चन आपको इजी लगा. द सेकेंड टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन दैट कम, ये क्वेश्चन 2 to 5 होते हैं. So this you found easy, right? Now you have the negative factual information. Negative factual, जो factual information है ना, वो questions कैसे पूछे जाते हैं? कहीं question हो सकता है according to the para, which of the following is true of X? X is something, okay? या ऐसे होएगा, the author's description of X mentions which of the following? तो 4 options है. According to the para, X occurred because. According to the para, X did Y because. According to the para, Y did X do Y. तो ये ऐसे explain करने के लिए इस type के, but this is easy, right? Now we have the negative factual information. Negative factual information, as the name suggests. Okay, what does this mean? That इसमें ना 4 जैसे options है. Out of those 4 options, 3 options will be correct, but you are being asked which option is not there, which is wrong. Okay, so that is the negative factual information. According to the paragraph 1, all of the following were true of American art in the late 1880s and early 1900s except. ठीक है, तो ये सारे करेक्ट थे एक्सेप्ट एक. तो जो नहीं दिया हुआ अंदर वो आपका आंसर है. जो रॉन्ग है अंदर, जो ऑपोजिट दिया हुआ है. गॉट इट? This is called negative factual information. The United States. Should I read the question now? The
Yes, ma'am.
United
Yes,
States
ma'am. Yes,
in the 1800s was full of practical, hardworking people who did not consider the arts, from theater to painting, useful occupations. In addition, the public's attitude that European art was better than American art both discouraged and infuriated American artists. In the early 1900s, there was a strong feeling among artists that the United States was long overdue in developing art that did not reproduce European traditions. Everybody agreed that the heart and soul of the new country should be reflected in its art. But opinions differed about what this art would be like and how it would develop. Okay. Now, according to paragraph 1, all of the following are true of American art in the late 1800s and early 1900s, except. So one answer, except वो वाला आपने mark करना है. Most Americans thought art was unimportant.
ठीक है, अभी ये हो कंजक्शन. ओके, ये मेरे को समझानी है ना? इसमें ही है. नहीं, उसको अभी छोड़ दो. मैं
Okay. So this is all of the following were true of American art except A. Most Americans thought art was unimportant. तो ये अंदर दिया हुआ है. Americans ने सोचा art unimportant है.
No, ma'am.
ये अंदर दिया हुआ है ना.
Yes.
They were full of practical, hardworking people who did not consider the arts useful occupations. वो art को useful नहीं मानते थे. So they thought art was unimportant, right?
The answer D, ma'am.
आंसर अभी देखते हैं, बट ए तो आपने एक्सक्लूड कर दिया. एलिमिनेट ए बिकॉज इट इज गिवन. ओके, लेट अस गो टू बी. अमेरिकन आर्ट जनरली कॉपीड यूरोपियन स्टाइल्स एंड ट्रेडिशंस. तो अमेरिकन आर्ट जनरली कॉपी करता था यूरोपियन स्टाइल्स. ये लिखा हुआ है अंदर. यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स वाज लॉन्ग ओवरड्यू इन डेवलपिंग आर्ट दैट डिड नॉट रिप्रोड्यूस यूरोपियन ट्रेडिशन. मतलब वो यूरोपियन ट्रेडिशंस को रिप्रोड्यूस करता था, वो अभी उन्होंने ऐसा डेवलप ही नहीं करा था जो नहीं रिप्रोड्यूस करता European traditions. So this is what this is also out. This is given, right? Are you understanding this?
Yes, ma'am.
Most Americans considered American art inferior to European art. Now, most Americans considered American art inferior to European art. अब यहाँ पे देखो. In addition, the public's attitude that European art was better than American art both discouraged and infuriated American artists. So, batao.
D.
American art was very popular with European audiences. D. अब ये most
D.
Americans considered American art inferior to European art. ये भी दिया हुआ है ना? They
Yes,
considered, हाँ. And American art was very popular with European audiences. This is not given. Okay. So D is the answer. Correct. Okay. So did you find did you find this question easy or difficult?
Easy.
Easy, ma'am.
All of you, or there are a few who found it difficult? All right.
No, it's not.
It is easy. Okay. You get 0 to 2 such questions. 0, it may be no question of this type, or there may be 2. All right. So this is also easy. Next, we have the inference questions. Inference means you have to recognize an idea that is implied, but not straight away stated. But imply kiya gaya. You have to recognize that. You have to read the passage and para and understand it. So what has been implied in it? For example, if agar koi effect diya hua hai, to examiner, the question might ask its cause. If a comparison is made, then an inference question may ask the basis of the comparison, why that comparison has been made, which of the following can be inferred about X. So yes, a inference question hai. The author of the passage implies that X something, okay? Which of the following can be inferred from para 1 about X? So इस way में question पूछे जा सकते हैं. Now let us see. Which of the following can be inferred from para 1 about candles before the 19th century? और ये 4 options है. You have to say what is implied about candles before the 19th century. So let me read the passage and then we'll come to the options. The 19th century brought with it a burst of new discoveries and inventions that revolutionized the candle industry and made lighting available to all. In the early to mid 19th century, so we are talking of before the 19th century. In the early to mid 19th century, a process was developed to refine tallow, that is fat from animals, with alkali and sulfuric acid. The result was a product called stearin. Stearin is harder and burns longer than unrefined tallow. This breakthrough meant that it was possible to make tallow candles that would not produce the usual smoke and rancid odor. Stearins were also derived from palm oil, so vegetable waxes as well as animal fats could be used to make candles. Now, you have to, infer something which is not straight away given, okay? And we'll see the options. A, they did not smoke when they were burned. So
I think this is the answer.
before the 19th century, the candles did not smoke when they were burned. Now see what has been given about smoke. See,
Last line के ऊपर दिया हुआ है.
this breakthrough meant that it was possible to make tallow candles that would not produce the usual smoke and rancid odor. तो अभी पहले मतलब स्मोक करती थी, पर अब ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी आई है अर्ली टू मिड 19th सेंचुरी, पर हमने बिफोर 19th सेंचुरी करना है. सो दे डिड स्मोक, राइट? ये इन्फर कर लिया ना आपने कि वो स्मोक करती थी, तो ए इज आउट. इज दैट क्लियर? They produced a pleasant odor as they burned. अब यहाँ पे लिखा है rancid odor था. अब rancid odor को exclude करने का बाद में टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई या whatever they developed. So they produced a pleasant odor. ये भी out हो गया because they did not produce. There was a rancid odor. Rancid is not pleasant. All right.
Yeah.
They were not available to all. अब ये देखो यहाँ पे है. The 19th century brought with it burst of new discoveries and inventions that revolutionized the candle industry and made lighting available to all. So 19th century mein they became available to all. Question hai, they were not available to all. Before the 19th century, अब ये infer कर लिया आपने यहाँ से, क्योंकि 19वीं सदी में आई candles which were available to all. So can this be inferred that before 19th century they were not available to all?
Yes, it may be answered.
It can be considered, okay? Let us exclude or eliminate D also. Then, of course, C will be the answer. They contained sulfuric acid. अब देखो यहाँ पे था a process was developed to refine tallow and with alkali and sulfuric acid. तो sulfuric acid contain नहीं करते थे, वो refine करने के लिए use करते थे. They contained sulfuric acid भी out है. So C is the answer. I hope you could infer that easily. Okay.
No, ma'am, I didn't understand. Inferred means not given.
No, infer means the idea is
Things are
implied.
given
It is implied. It is not straight away stated. So you have to read it and read the passage and see what has been implied. See, here it is written, the 19th century brought with it a burst of new discoveries and inventions that revolutionized the candle industry and made lighting available to all. So 19th century brought with it new discoveries, because of which lighting was available to all. That means before 19th century, lighting was not available to all. You can infer it now from here, Megan.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Got it, na? Right? See, 19th century made lighting available to all. The question is, what can be inferred about candles before the 19th century? So now what can you infer? Lighting was not available to all. They were not available to all. Right? Understood? Easy or difficult? Slightly, of course. You know, you'll not be handed all the answers on a plate. Then everybody would be getting 30 out of 30. But I still would feel that logical. Question is logical, and if you read nicely, you'll be able to do it. Right? Let us go to the next question. That is rhetoric purpose question. Rhetoric is the art of writing or speaking effectively. What is the meaning of rhetoric? The art of writing or speaking effectively. In factual information, you are asked what info the author has presented, but in rhetoric, you are asked why the author has presented that info. Rhetoric का ये मतलब है. Okay? Factual में तो fact दिया हुआ है ना, कहाँ author ने ये बताया है. Okay? Rhetoric question में आपको ये पूछा जाएगा कि author ने ये क्यों बताया है. Why the author has given this info. Okay? Now you can, the question type can be, the author discusses X in the para in order to, the author ने ये X का जिक्र क्यों किया, in order to do something. Why does the author mention X? ये question हो सकता है this way. Why does the author mention X is something that is given in that passage? Why does the author compare X to Y? Why does the author compare X to Y? So these are the type of questions that can come. Now, if you read a question, you will understand this word even better. Or basically, the thing is, ऐसे सारे questions you see in the other English exams also which you take for the, but उन questions के हमें नाम नहीं पता, so we cannot name them ki, oh, this is a rhetoric. You don't have, nobody is going to ask you whether you are recognizing this, but this is the type of question. When you read the question, you will know. Why does the author discuss the bronze statues of horses created by artists in the early Italian Renaissance? So author bronze statues horses के जो artist ने create करे हैं उनको क्यों discuss करता है early Italian Renaissance में? Now let us read this passage and you will get the answer from here and you will tell me which answer is it. But be attentive. I'll read very slowly. Sensitivity to physical laws is thus an important consideration for the maker of applied art objects. It is often taken for granted that this is also true for the maker of fine art objects. So there are two types of, एक applied art object है, एक fine art object है. The assumption misses a significant difference between the two disciplines. Fine art objects are not constrained by the laws of physics in the same way that applied art objects are. Because their primary purpose is not functional, they are only limited in terms of the materials used to make them. Sculptures must, for example, be stable, which requires an understanding of the properties of mass, weight distribution, and stress. Paintings must have rigid stretchers so that the canvas will be taut, and the paint must not deteriorate, crack, or discolor. These are problems that must be overcome by the artist because they tend to intrude upon his or her conception of the work. For example, in the early Italian Renaissance, bronze statues of horses with a raised foreleg usually had a cannonball under that hoof This was done because the cannonball was needed to support the weight of the leg. Now let us read the question. Why does the author discuss the bronze statues of horses created by artists in the early Italian Renaissance? A, to provide an example of a problem related to the laws of physics that a fine artist must overcome. So, ये question आपको समझ आ गया कि fine artist जो है उसको एक कोई problem related to the laws of physics है, उसको उसने overcome करना है. तो यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है कि जो fine artist है, fine art and applied art, did you get the difference in the meaning of two? Applied art objects वो होती हैं जिनका कोई purpose भी होता है, utility होती है. Okay? Then assumption जो misses a significant difference between the two disciplines. Fine art objects are not constrained by the laws of physics in the same way applied art objects are, because their primary purpose is not functional. Applied art का primary purpose is functional. Fine arts का primary function is not functional. They are only limited in terms of material. तो उसने ये जो horses का ये जो example bronze statues of horses का क्यों दिया है? उसने दिया है कि you paint यहाँ पे these are problems that must be overcome by the artist. ये जो problems है physics के laws वाली, properties of mass, weight distribution, these are problems that must be overcome by the artist because they tend to intrude upon his or her conception of the work. फिर उसने एग्जाम्पल दिया इस बात का, इन द अर्ली इटालियन रेनेसेंस ब्रॉन्ज स्टैचूज ऑफ हॉर्सेस विद अ रेज्ड foreleg usually had a cannonball under that hoof. Now, why does the author discuss the bronze statue? To provide an example of a problem related to the laws of physics that a fine artist must overcome. B, to argue that fine artists are unconcerned with the laws of physics. Fine artists are unconcerned with the laws. ये तो लिखा हुआ है ना, they are concerned with the laws. Okay? You got this? Sensitivity is important consideration. Okay, this is true for fine art objects also. So sensitivity or to physical laws is important. तो आपका ये जो B है ये out हो गया, exclude हो गया. Okay? Then to contrast the relative sophistication of modern artists in solving problems related to the law of physics. So sophistication modern artists की relative consider ये इसका कोई जिक्र नहीं है, ठीक है? Then to note an exceptional piece of art constructed without the aid of technology, ऐसी भी कोई बात नहीं है. So what should be the answer?
A.
A is the answer that they have to overcome. Okay. Now rhetoric purpose questions आपको 1 to 2 आते हैं. Okay, total ये जो reading है TOEFL की, you get 1 to 2 questions. So 2 marks you can say, maximum 2 marks के, otherwise 1 mark का भी आता है. These questions I think are slightly difficult, but you have such questions in the other English exams also जो आप देखते हो to go abroad, right? Let us see this vocabulary question now. Now, what is the meaning of a vocabulary question? It's easy. Vocabulary, there is a word given in the passage और आपको पूछा जाएगा कि उस word का meaning is closest is meaning to which word here. So basically, synonym आपको ढूंढना है उस word का, and when you read that sentence, that word may have other meanings also, but what the meaning of that word is in context of that passage, वो आपको यहाँ पे identify करना है. So just read this line. In the animal world, the task of moving about is fulfilled in many ways. For some animals, locomotion is accompanied by changes in body shape. The word locomotion in the passage is closest in meaning to evolution, movement, survival, escape.
B.
Movement.
Easy question, right? Now see this question, another example.
Is implied by the motion word.
Yes. Some poisonous snake bites need to be treated immediately or the victim will suffer paralysis. Okay? In stating that the victim will suffer paralysis, the author means that the victim will suffer. यहाँ पे ना word का meaning पूछते हैं, phrase का meaning. यहाँ पे phrase का पूछा गया है, will suffer paralysis. Will A, lose the ability to move, become unconscious, undergo a shock, feel great pain. So what should be the answer? A. So these questions are easy, right? Vocabulary questions. You found them easy. Immediately you could make out the answer. Next question, sixth question that can be asked is a reference question. Okay. Reference question, you get 0 to 2 in the reading. Okay. Reference question कैसे होता है? You have to identify relation, referential relation between words in a passage. तो इसके लिए जैसे कोई जैसे pronoun है, they किसके लिए use हुआ है? What is this they used for? It, what is that it used for? Okay. So you need to figure out that the word X in the passage refers to what. So I'll read this and then you have to say the word they in the passage refers to what. Reference questions इनको कहते हैं. These laws are universal in their application regardless of cultural beliefs, geography or climate. If pots have no bottoms or have large openings in their sides, they could hardly be considered containers in any traditional sense. Since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision, have determined the general form of applied art objects, they follow basic patterns, so much so that functional forms can vary only within certain limits. They follow basic patterns. ये they use हुआ है ना, इसमें एक ही they use हुआ है. The word they in the passage refers to what? Applied art objects?
मैम दो जगह में
B.
हाँ?
B.
दो जगह में दे दिया हुआ.
A, not B. Containers and the, देखो आप इसको ध्यान से पढ़ो. Since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision, have determined the general form of applied art objects, they follow basic pattern. तो ये they किसके लिए है? Applied art objects के लिए. Okay, is that clear? Not the laws of physics, not containers.
ना जैसे हम अपने उसमें पैराग्राफ में लिखते हैं तो कोमा लगा के हम दे से बाकी का स्टार्ट कर देते हैं तो वो उसके लिए रेफरेंस हो जाता है.
So ये किसका रेफरेंस है? Applied art objects का. ठीक है? That is it. Applied art objects. Now see another question. The first weekly day is given 2 times. Let us see 2 times कहाँ पे है?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I also the
Okay.
sides of
Okay. Now they here also it means the same. Okay. Here see. If pots have no bottoms or have large openings in their sides, they could hardly be considered containers in the traditional sense. Since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision, have determined the general form of applied art objects, they follow basic pattern. Ye they be or ye they be, dono they are referring to applied art objects. Okay.
I thought sides of pots.
If pots have no bottoms or have large openings in their sides, they could hardly be considered containers in a traditional sense. So they sides hai. Sides ko to containers hai hi nahi karte side. They is not sides of pots. Okay. They could be hardly be considered containers as the applied art objects. And here it is becoming even more clear. It is for this. Here also it is for this, but here also it is for this. Okay. Now let us read this. The first weekly newspaper in the colonies was the Boston Gazette, established in 1719, the same year that marked the appearance of Philadelphia's first newspaper, the American Mercury, where the young Benjamin Franklin worked. By 1760, Boston had 4 newspapers and 5 other printing establishments, Philadelphia, 2 newspapers and 3 other presses, and New York, 3 newspapers. The distribution, if not sale of newspapers, was assisted by the establishment of a postal service in 1710, which had a network of some 65 offices by 1770, serving all 13 colonies. Now which in the passage refers to distribution, sale, newspaper, or postal service?
Postal service.
Clear? Yes? Is it clear to all?
पोस्टल सर्विस के लिए क्योंकि विच मतलब किसके लिए तो कोई
So you know this is it's easy or difficult? Reference question.
Easy.
You get 0 to 2 in the passage. Okay, in your reading. Another example. This can, this phrase can also be asked like this. Roots anchor the plant in one or two ways, or sometimes by a combination of the two. The first is by occupying a large volume of shallow soil around the plant's base with a fibrous root system, one consisting of many thin, profusely branched roots. Since these kinds of roots grow relatively close to the soil surface, they effectively control soil erosion. Grass roots are especially well suited to this purpose. This purpose पूछा गया किसके लिए? This purpose means जो purpose ऊपर
Soil erosion.
हाँ, okay. Fibrous roots capture water. तो आपको this purpose करना है in the passage refers to preventing soil erosion. It's clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right. Now the seventh type of question that you get is sentence simplification question. Sentence simplification question, as it's clear that there is a highlighted part of the text which is there, and you have to you are given 4 options, and which of the following best expresses the essential information in the highlighted sentence. So only in this sentence, what essential information is given, you have to say which sentence expresses that. So in a way, this is paraphrasing of what is given here, and you have to just match which would be the best option. Now, let's try not reading the whole para and trying to do it. If it's not clear, we might have to read the whole thing to say what is being implied here. Okay, what can be the essential information. Since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision, have determined the general form of applied art objects, they follow basic patterns, so much so that functional forms can vary only within certain limits. Okay. Which of the following best expresses the essential information in the highlighted sentence? Incorrect answer choices change the meaning in important ways or leave out essential information. Now you have to tell me. A, functional applied art objects cannot vary much from the basic patterns determined by the laws of physics. Now tell me, do you think this is the answer? Let me read the other. The function of applied art objects is determined by basic patterns in the laws of physics. The function jo hai, is it determined by basic pattern? General form, they follow basic pattern. So does this function of applied art determined by basic patterns anyway? Since functional applied art objects vary only within certain limits, arbitrary decisions cannot have determined their general form.
Yeah, C is correct.
Not some, since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision have determined the general form, they follow basic pattern. So now they say that since they can vary only within certain limit, arbitrary decision cannot have determined their general form. Anyways, this is arbitrary. Yahan pe likha hai, not some arbitrary decision has not determined. That is why they follow the basic patterns. Okay. So they can, so it is the opposite of what is, it is the other way around what is given here. The general form of applied art objects is limited by some arbitrary decision that is not determined by the laws of physics. ये कह रहे it is limited by arbitrary decision. यहाँ पे लिखा not some arbitrary decision. So D is out. A is the answer, और A बहुत clear दिया हुआ है. Functional applied art objects cannot vary much from the basic patterns determined by the laws of physics. ये best इसको best express करता है. See there. These cannot, they follow basic patterns, so much so their functional forms can vary only within certain limit. They cannot vary much. So this is what they cannot vary much. They can vary only within certain limits. Sirf ye wala point hai. This is the thing that is best expressing this, what is given here. Others are close, but this is the one which is best expressing. If you read the question says, which of the following best expresses? So baki incorrect answer choices, they change the meaning in important ways or leave out essential information. या तो उनसे meaning change हो रहा है या essential information बीच में छूट रही है. Not everything that is expressed in that is given in that. Only A is the correct answer. Okay. You have 0 to 1 sentence simplification questions in your actual TOEFL exam. Okay. It's 0 to 1. So 1 mark out of 30. Next, we have insert text question. Insert text questions. See, इनमें क्या होता है? You have to try putting this sentence at any of these places, A or B or C or D, and your paragraph should make sense. Okay, the tip to do it is try the sentence in each of the places, then read out the structure of the sentence, look at the structure, see, and all the keywords that can help you in such questions are: on the other hand, for example, further, furthermore, similarly, therefore, in contrast. So you will come to know where to put it if any of these this sentence has any of such things. Therefore, on the contrary, in other words, finally, as a result. Okay, these things can be there. So let us see. The question is, all three of them have strengths and weaknesses, but none adequately answers all of the questions the paintings present. All three of them have strengths and weaknesses. So यहाँ पे तीन चीजें दी होंगी जिनकी strength और weaknesses की बात है, but none adequately answers all of the questions the paintings present. Now let us read this. Scholars offer three related but different opinions about this puzzle. One opinion is that the paintings are a record of the seasonal migrations made by herds. Because some paintings were made directly over others, obliterating them, it is probable that a painting's value ended with the migration it pictured. Unfortunately, this explanation fails to explain the hidden locations unless the migrations were celebrated with secret ceremonies. All three of them have strengths and weaknesses. All three of them, one opinion है, second opinion और third opinion तो दिए ही नहीं हुए. So this all three of them end में नहीं आ सकता, D की जगह पे नहीं आ सकता, because इससे पहले all three दिए होने चाहिए. So D out कर दो आप. Okay. फिर यहाँ पे one opinion दिया है और one opinion को आगे लेके गए हैं, and unfortunately उस opinion is explanation fails to explain hidden locations दिया है. So where can you put all three of them have strengths and weaknesses?
B.
Okay, हम इसको पढ़ के देखते हैं वहां डाल के. Scholars offer three related but different opinions about this puzzle. One opinion is that the paintings were a record of the seasonal migrations made by herds. All three of them have strengths and weaknesses, but none adequately answers all of the questions. Does it suit here?
B.
B में बोला मैंने B की जगह, but does it suit here? One opinion के बाद all three of them have strengths and weaknesses. Does it suit here?
A, ma'am.
Yes, it's only at A, because see, he says scholars offer three related but different opinions about this puzzle. Then all three of them have strengths and weaknesses, but none adequately answers. Then one opinion के बारे में है और फिर उसको expand करा हुआ है. So the only place it suits is A. Okay, insert text question. You have one question of this type in the whole of TOEFL. One question. Okay. Now these are 8 questions, and then out of the reading to learn questions, these are of 2 types. Either it is prose summary or fill in the table. I'll tell you what this means. These are lengthy passages and different in both, but only one question is asked. Either it will be a prose summary or it will be a fill in the table question. If you get a prose summary, it will be 2 points. If you get a fill in the table, it will be 3 points. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Total marks are 30 over here. Okay. So prose summary question, this long passage, and after that the question is like that. An introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage is provided below. Complete the summary by selecting 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. So you have to read the whole passage. Okay. And then you have to, 3 choices. You have to select 3 choices out of the 6 given here. And this is the first sentence that is given. You have to sort of make a paragraph of the summary of the whole of this passage. And the first sentence that, we call the topic sentence. I I've told you many times about the topic sentence, what it means. It's a gist of the whole paragraph. And after that, you have to put 3 sentences from here. You have to choose 3 options which best fit, that express the most important ideas in the passage. You have to choose 3 which express the most important ideas in the passage. And for this question, you have to read the whole passage. Okay. Only then you will be able to find out which 3 are correct. Now, one way to do this, which I have been, telling in the IELTS also, when you do such lengthy passage questions, global choice, read all the options first. And as you read the passage, you can mark out which you have to exclude, which option you have to tick as given. Okay. Because sometimes the opposite can be given and you can exclude, eliminate that. We can try like this. This question, of course, will take time, but we'll first read all the options and then read the passage and see we are getting any answer or not. Okay. A, applied art objects fulfill functions such as containing or sheltering, and objects with the same function have similar characteristics because they are constrained by their purpose. तो applied art objects के बारे में लिखा हुआ है, they fulfill functions, जैसे कि उसमें कुछ contain करते हो या किसी को shelter देते हैं, और अगर same function वाले objects हैं, उनके characteristics भी similar होते हैं because they are constrained by their purpose. B, you have to translate it nicely and translate the passage nicely, otherwise you will not know, you have to understand nicely. It is easy to recognize the Shang dynasty vases are different from the Inca vases. ये easy to recognize करना है कि Shang dynasty vases different है Inca vases से. Fine arts objects are not functional, so they are limited only by the properties of material used. So fine art objects का यहाँ दिया हुआ है, they are not functional. वो functional नहीं होते, इसलिए उनकी limit वो सिर्फ properties से limited होते हैं, materials की properties से. Renaissance sculptors learned to use iron braces to strengthen the internal structures of the bronze statues. Renaissance के जो sculptor थे, उन्होंने iron braces learn किया use करना internal structure bronze statues को strengthen करने के लिए. In the 20th century, fine artists and applied artists became more similar to one another in their attitude toward their materials. तो दोनों तरह के artists similar हो गए. In all periods, fine artists tend to challenge the physical limitations of their materials, while applied artists tend to cooperate with the physical properties of their materials. Now we'll read the passage. As you'll get any answer, you should be able to point it out now if you have read all the options with me nicely. Although we now tend to refer to the various crafts according to the materials used to construct them, clay, glass, wool, fiber, and metal, it was once common to think of crafts in terms of function, which led to their being known as the applied arts. Okay. Approaching crafts from the point of view of function, we can divide them into simple categories: containers, shelters, and supports. There is no way around the fact that containers, shelters, and supports must be functional. The applied arts, thus bound by the laws of physics, which pertain to both the material used in the making and the substances and things to be contained, supported, and sheltered. यहाँ पे आपको कोई आंसर मिला अभी तक? See these options.
Applied art objects fulfill functions.
Okay. Okay, यहाँ पे अभी कोई नहीं है. Let us read further and we'll see. The applied arts are thus bound by the laws of physics, which pertain to both the materials used in the making and the substances and things to be contained, supported, and sheltered. These laws are universal in their application, regardless of cultural beliefs. Okay, यहाँ पे मैंने अगले वाले को खोल लिया. You need to learn personally. Okay, let's see. If a pot has no bottom or has large opening in its side, it could hardly be considered a container in any traditional sense. Since the laws of physics, not some arbitrary decision, have determined the general form of applied art objects, they follow basic pattern, so much so that functional forms can vary only within certain limits. Buildings without roofs, for example, are unusual because they depart from the norm. However, not all functional objects are exactly alike. That is why we recognize the Shang dynasty vase as being different from an Inca vase. What varies is not the basic form, but the incidental details that do not obstruct the object's primary function. So can you figure out any answer?
B.
B, it is easy to recognize that Chang are is, see, read the question nicely. ये बहुत important है. Complete the summary by selecting 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. तो most important idea आपको ये लगता है शैंग के वो जो वाजिस का है, उन्होंने सिर्फ ये बताया है कि that is why we recognize कि वो दोनों different है, उनका बेसिक फॉर्म वेरी नहीं करता, बट इंसिडेंटल डिटेल्स वेरी करती है, उसका प्राइमरी फंक्शन ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट नहीं करती. दिस इज नॉट ए वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट एज इट इज. तो इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट यहाँ पे है. चलो आगे पढ़ते हैं, पूरा पढ़ लेती हूँ फिर उसके बाद देखते हैं. Sensitivity to physical laws is thus an important consideration for the maker of applied art objects. It is often taken for granted that this is also true for the maker of fine art objects. This assumption misses a significant difference between the two disciplines. Fine art objects are not constrained by the laws of physics in the same way that applied art objects are. Because their primary purpose is not functional, they are only limited in terms of the materials used to make them. यहाँ पे कोई आंसर है? Because their primary purpose is not functional, they are only limited in terms of the material used. यहाँ पे कुछ है, difference दिया हुआ है. Can you make out? सी वाला ऑप्शन पढ़ो.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one thing, another thing I would like to point out here is, see the first sentence जिसके बाद में आपने ये 3 चीजें लिखनी है. This passage discusses fundamental differences between applied art objects and fine art objects. Okay, तो fine art और applied art के differences देखो कहाँ पे हैं. तो B is not a difference of fine art and applied art. वो तो आपस में उनके vases का difference बता रहे हैं. So this इसलिए भी out हो गया. Okay. Applied art objects fulfill functions such as containing और sheltering. ये हमने ऊपर पढ़ा है, जो पहले पैरा मैंने पढ़ा है. So A option एक तो है आपकी, A option is there. And then fine art objects are not functional, so they are limited only by the properties. तो C option भी है, वो अभी मैंने जो पढ़ी है यहाँ पे. See, they are not functional because their primary purpose is not functional. They are only limited in terms of materials used. Sculptures must, for example, be stable, which requires an understanding of the properties of mass, weight, distribution, and stress. Okay? आगे देखो. Paintings must have rigid stretchers so that the canvas will be taut and paint must not deteriorate, crack, or discolor. These are problems that must be overcome by the artist because they tend to intrude upon his or her conception of the work. For example, in the early Renaissance, bronze statues of horses, ये हम पहले पढ़ चुके हैं ना सारा, so you've read this 2-3 times. This was done because the cannonball was needed to support the weight of the leg. In other words, the demands of the laws of physics, not the sculpture's aesthetic intentions, place the ball there. That this device was a necessary structural compromise is clear from the fact that the cannonball quickly disappeared when sculptors learned how to strengthen the internal structure of a statue with iron braces. Even though fine arts in the 20th century often treat materials in new way, the basic difference in attitude of artists in relation to their materials in the fine arts and applied art remains relatively constant. तो उनका जो difference है वो है. It would therefore not be too great an exaggeration to say that practitioners of fine art work to overcome the limitation of their material, whereas those engaged in the applied art work in concert with the materials. Now, यहाँ पे देखो. In all periods, fine art tend to challenge the physical limitations of their materials, while applied art tend to cooperate with the physical properties. तो एक F option है जो last sentence से आपको मिली है यहाँ पे. Okay. And एक ऑप्शन A करेक्ट है जो शुरू में आपको मिली है, and एक ऑप्शन C करेक्ट है. So A, C and F are the three. ये 2 points के answers हैं. All three अगर आप point करोगे तो आपको 2 marks मिलने हैं. Okay. So let us go to the next question. This is fill in a table question. Now fill in a table question. We have used the same passage here, but exam में passage वैसे भी मैंने same passage से सारे questions आपको समझाए हैं. But in the actual exam, this passage will be different of this question. So you will have to read it nicely. Now ये जो question है ना, fill in the table, इसमें ऐसे table बना हुआ है. Okay. And types of art and statement है. Applied art के लिए 3 आपने इधर से चुनने हैं जो applied art के लिए है, और 2 options चुननी है जो fine arts के लिए है. Okay. अब आपने ये passage we have read it many times, so just see. आपको कुछ पता चलता है ये applied art की है कि fine art की है. And object's purpose is primarily aesthetic. तो ये applied art का है कि fine art का है? Aesthetic. Primarily. Applied art का हमने कितनी बार पढ़ा है कि उनका primary purpose functional है. तो एस्थेटिक किसका हो सकता है फिर बताओ?
Fine arts.
Fine
arts,
So A is for fine arts. Okay. Objects serve a functional purpose. ये किसका है? Applied art का. The incidental detail of objects do not vary. Incidental details vary नहीं करती. ये किसी के ऐसे है, वो तो शैंग और वो वाजिस के बारे में था. यहाँ पे आगे चलते हैं. My God, can't you keep quiet? Artists work to overcome the limitations of their materials. कौन से आर्टिस्ट हैं जो, oh my God, ये 3 को पता नहीं क्या हो गया. कौन से आर्टिस्ट हैं जो अपनी limitations of their materials को overcome करने में काम करते हैं? Which are the artists? Applied के fine arts. यहाँ पे पढ़ो. जो पैसेज पहले पूरा पैसेज आएगा ना, यहाँ पे है. It would therefore be not too great an exaggeration to say that practitioner of fine art work to overcome the limitations of their materials. तो ये किसके लिए जाएगा?
Fine arts.
Fine arts के लिए. The basic form of objects varies a little across cultures. So basic form जो वेरी लिटिल करता है वो कौन सा है? किसका बेसिक फॉर्म लिटिल वेरी करता है? अप्लाइड का कि फाइन का? क्योंकि बेसिक उनका पर्पस फंक्शनल है तो उसका बेसिक फॉर्म नहीं वेरी करता है. ये हमने पढ़ा है ऊपर. सो ई इज फॉर अप्लाइड आर्ट्स. ओके. आर्टिस्ट वर्क इन कॉन्सर्ट विद देयर मटेरियल्स. आर्टिस्ट अपने मटेरियल्स के साथ कंसर्ट में काम करते हैं. ये देखो यहाँ पे लिखा है. Whereas those engaged in applied art work in concert with their materials. Straight away दिया हुआ है. So this is applied arts. Okay. So you have to select 3 for applied arts and 2 for fine arts. आपने select करें B, F और E for applied and A and D for the fine arts. Right. So you will get 1 question in the exam. Either it will be fill in the table or it will be this prose summary question. Okay. And if you get this, it will be worth 2 points. If you get that, it will be worth 3 points. But I think fill in the table was relatively easier than the prose summary. So anyways, this is it. Now, it was a very lengthy class today, 1 hour for reading. But I have a reading test for you. And the answers I'm not sharing with you. You will have to send me after doing, and we'll discuss in the reading class tomorrow, that reading. Are you all in for that? Give it a try. Questions are, reading is reading, whether you do it for any test, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
it will be good to go ahead with it. And I'll be sharing it in the group and you can then send me the answers personally. Then we'll discuss tomorrow, right? All right. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you enjoy the class? Tell me this.
No,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
No, yes.
Yes, ma'am.